A very good afternoon, dear students. The thought of the day is, as said by the Aristotle, that the roots of the education are bitter, but the fruits are sweet. So ultimately, what are the mentality of the students that they generally some of the students don't like study or don't like the education that they are going to ask that what is the need of this education in our life, what is the practical use of that education, but ultimately when you get the knowledge from the education, it going to help you somewhere in your life. And of course, yes, you are going to test the sweetest fruit of your life if you have gained the knowledge through the education. And as the pandemic situation is there, this is the best time to invest your time in education to read more and more books. I hope you all are safe at your place. I, Professor Sonal Agrawal, welcome you all on the digital platform of Agrawal Vidya Vihar English Medium College. This is the lecture for the subject Indian Banking and Currency System 5. What we did in the last lecture, that in the last lecture we have started our chapter number 2, that is the nationalized bank. In that we discussed the meaning of nationalization, that nationalization is a process of conversion the private bank into the government entity or the government body. After that, we have started with the topic that is the objective of nationalization of bank in India. That for what objective the nationalization become the need of that time. We discuss all these points. Now, in the today's lecture, we are going to start with the new topic that is the achievements of nationalization of banks. That after nationalization of banks in India, after the banks are converted, private banks are converted into the public sector bank, what are the achievements of that banks? So as you can see on the screen that this question is asked so many times in the examination. So from the examination point of view, this is a very ambiguous questions. Now the overall journey of the nationalized bank can be termed by the way of observing their achievements, which can be discussed as below. That the first point is expansion and the qualitative changes in bank advances. First thing, the advances are increased. Expansion of the bank advances. Advances means the here credit facility which is given by banks. So of course the quantity of the bank advances and the quantity of the credit facility will increase. With that, the qualitative changes will take place. What do you mean by here qualitative changes? Means that credit facility we are given to the weaker section, or you can say the priority sectors. So the development of that sector will be also possible. So here quantitative changes also takes place and the qualitative changes also takes place. The second achievement is that the advance to the priority sector that we just discussed in the qualitative changes. In short, here in the second topic, this point you have to discuss in detail. Advance to the priority sectors. Now, focus one thing here that the points of these achievements like advances to the priority sectors, this may also ask as a separate questions. Clear? Sometimes advance to the priority sectors asked in the examination as a short note or as a 7 marks question. So the points of these topics are individually important as a question. The third point is increase in number of the bank branches. Of course, after nationalization, the number of banks and the number of bank branches were increased. Now, how you can prove that the bank branches were increased? Of course, you have to take the data, help of the data. You have to mention some of the data. Now, one more thing here. In the last lecture, we have discussed the topic that is the objectives of nationalization of banks. In that topic, you can write by your own also. Clear? You can explain the points in your own words also. But here, achievements of nationalization of banks. So here, in this topic, the data is very important. So for this topic, for this question, you have to learn the data. Clear? You cannot explain by your own. Suppose this is the point that increase in number of bank branches. Of course, you can explain, but ultimately you have to give the data. You have to give the proof that how the bank branches were increased. So at least you have to give the data of 2 years. So this is requirement of this question that you have to learn data for this topic. The next achievement is the deposit mobilizations. Of course, the rate of the deposit mobilization will increase after the nationalization, and of course, especially from the rural areas, it is also increased. Why? Because the number of the banks were increased, number of the bank branches were increased. So ultimately, the number of customer increased, and various types of intensive is also given by the banker to the customer to deposit the money in the banks, and with that to increase the confidence of the customer with the bank, the deposit insurance scheme started by the RBI. So these all are the reasons that ultimately the deposit mobilization rate were increased. The next is the diversification in banking operations. So now the banking are not providing just the traditional functions, or not providing just the traditional facilities to the customer, but they are also providing some of the extra facilities to increase the customer satisfaction level. So in this way, their banking operation takes place in a diversified mode, you can say. The next is the innovative banking. Now, what do you mean by innovative banking? Here, you can say that the banking which is based on technology is known as the innovative banking. So, this topic, that innovative banking is important as a short note also. Clear? It individually it can ask you that write the short note on innovative banking, or this topic may ask in the examination as a 7 marks question. So, some of the points of this topic is important individually also. So, you have to prepare in both the ways. That suppose they asked you for 13 marks, explain the achievements of the nationalization of banks. So it is not possible that you are going to write 20 to 25 pages. It is not at all possible. Then what you have to do, you have to prepare this topic in such a way, if this question is asked that explain the achievements of nationalization of banks, so you are able to write this according to the marks also. And if any of the point asked individually, like innovative banking as a short note, advanced to priority sector as a short note, then you are able to write as a short note also. Clear? So these topics you have to prepare in both the manners. If it is asked as a short note, that what content you are going to write, and if the full question is asked, that what content you are going to write. The next is the technological upgradation. Of course, nowadays all the banking terminology, all the banking transactions are based on the technology, especially the computerizations. We are using so many technical facilities like online banking, e-banking. That is a new concept. These all things we are going to learn in the point number 7. The next is the trading facility, especially the trading facility we are given to the bankers of the bank, to the person who is going to perform the duty. So what is this? How it is done? These all things we are going to discuss. Then doorsteps and local area banking means, you can say here we have to learn about the mobile banking. Clear? Next, improved customer services in banks. As I already said, that to increase the satisfaction level amongst the customers and to attract more and more customers. Now they are not providing only the traditional services; they are also providing additional services to improve the customer services in banks. Clear? Why? Because number of the banks is increased in the market, number of the bank branches were increased. So ultimately, the competition level is increased. So nowadays, with the providing of the traditional functions, it is the requirement that the bank must be satisfy the customer in a better way. Then only the banks are able to survive in the market. Then only the banks are able to attract the customers. For a common example, that to provide the ATM facility, it is not a compulsory one according to the Act, Banking Regulation Act. This act says there is no compulsion that the bank should be provide you the ATM facilities. But nowadays, as you all know, that ATM is, you can say, the basic need of the customer. Yes, if any bank is not providing the facility of ATM, or you can say the internet banking, in that situations the customer are not going to attract toward that particular bank or branch. So it is a basic need of the banks to provide these types of facilities to survive in the market, to survive at the competition level. So these all are the improved customer services are given by the banks we are going to discuss in these points. And the last one is the financial inclusion. What do you mean by financial inclusion? So financial inclusion means to connect those areas with banking facilities where banks are not available. Clear? Or you can say where banking facilities are not available. You can say the connect unbanked areas with the banking facilities is known as the financial inclusions. So these all are the achievements of the nationalization of banks. We are going to discuss one by one in detail. Again, I am repeating the same that this question is IMP as a 13 marks question. Also, they may ask you that achievements of the nationalization of banks, and sometimes. You can say by mistake they may ask you achievements of nationalization of banks for 7 marks also, clear? So you have to prepare in both the manners that if 13 marks question is there, then how to write, and if any individual point is asked as a 7 marks, then how to write, like as per the past experience that the expansion and the qualitative changes asked in the examination, advance to priority sectors, and the technological upgradation and innovative banking. These 4 to 5 topics are there that may ask you as a short note separately also. To start with the first point, that is the expansion and the qualitative changes in bank advances. The first thing that there has been a marked increase in the bank credit since the nationalization, reflecting the period expansion of the economy. Of course, in the last topic also we have discussed that after the nationalization of banks, there is a marketable increase in the number of banks and the number of bank branches, and with this, the ultimately deposits and the number of the customer increase. So the deposits increase. So the funds in the banks are more. If the funds with the banks are more, the ultimately they are able to give more lending facility to the customer. So because of these reasons, the expansion, you can say the quantitative expansion of the bank advances made the possible, and the banks are meeting the credit requirement of industry, trade, and agriculture on a larger scales than before. Of course, why? Because the funds of the banks with the fund with the bank is more. So now they are able to focus on the lending activity more comparison to the past time, or you can say the comparison with the pre-nationalization period. So how to prove this statement? That of course we have to take the help of the data. So data says that in the year of 1951, the total bank advances were 547 crores only, which increased to 3599 crores in the year of 1969, and further increased to 1,16,301 crores in the year of 1991. And there is a marketable increase in the year of 2018, that is the 86,50,714 crores. So you can see, you can do the analysis that how wide difference is there between the bank advances. Suppose learn the data of 2 years, 1951 and 2018. Clear? So how there is a marketable increase in the bank advances were given by the pre-nationalization period and the post-nationalization period. In the 1951, it is just 547 crores, and in the 2018, it is increased to 86,50,714 crores. Apart from this, the phenomenal, this is all about the quantitative changes here. Expansion means here we discuss the quantitative changes in the bank advances. Clear, quantity is increased. Now we are going to discuss about the qualitative changes, that apart from the phenomenal quantitative expansion of bank credit, there has been a significant and qualitative changes in the lending policy of the commercial bank also after the nationalization of the banks in India. So the concepts of the social banking, we have discussed this social banking concept in the chapter number 1 also, that the concept of the social banking has come to be widely accepted by the banks, and this concept refer to that the policy under which the banks provide the credit on preferential basis. Just we discussed in the introduction part that social banking means the credit facility must be done according to the benefit of the society, according to the benefit of the nation. And of course, yes, you can say that here the credit facility we are provided on a preferential basis. What means the preference must be given to the priority sector or to the weaker sector of the economy, so the development of that sector made possible, and ultimately the development of the country become the possible. Suppose for an example, if the country having the limitation of the funds for the lending facility, and the two loan applications are there with the banks. One loan application from the sector who is in the priority sector list, list, and the second loan application is from the industrial who is not in the priority sector list. So in that situation, if the concept of sexual banking is adopted by the bank, so ultimately the bank will choose that first option, that is the industry which is in the list of the priority sector, and avoid those industries which are not in the list of the priority sector and which are already developed one. So this is the, you can say, the qualitative changes in the lending policies of the banks. So first slide is shows the details about the quantitative changes in the lending facilities of the bank, and the second slide shows the information about the qualitative changes in the lending policies of the bank. So now the banks are focusing on the priority sectors more with the quantitative changes also. The second point is advanced to the priority sectors. As you can see that this topic individually asked as a short note in the year of VNSU April 2007. This is essential here. What do you mean by priority sector? We have discussed the meaning of the priority sector, and we have discussed the types of the priority sectors in detail in the second year BCom. There is a separate chapter about the priority sectors, and we have discussed about the all of the priority sectors in second year BCom. So if you remember this topic also, the without just reading this content, you can write by your own also about the priority sectors. So if you don't remember, so just here in short we have to discuss about some of the headline points, that this is essentially meant for all-round development of the economy, as opposed to focusing only on the financial sectors. That as we discussed so many times is that if the any country wants the development here, as you all know that India is a developing country, so for the development of the backward areas, it is requirement that there should be more financial assistance given to that areas. Yes, of course, and the financial assistance, financial help can be given by the financial sectors only, and banking sector is main of that financial sectors. So of course more and more fund will be given to the priority sectors. Why? Because the priority sector means, you can say, the weaker section. So they are the weaker section, for so for the development they require more help in terms of money. So the banks has to focus more on the lending policies to grant more and more loans to the priority sectors. The broad categories of the priority sectors of all the scheduled commercial bank we are going to discuss here. That first one is the agricultural and allied activities. Here, allied activities means the activities which are directly or indirectly related with the agricultural. So, common example of the allied activity, you can say the dairy, pharmacy, and you can say the pesticides industry. Yes, so these all are the activities which are directly or indirectly related with the agricultural activity. The second one is about the small scale industries. Clear, direct finance will be given to them, or also indirect finance will be given to them. How direct and indirect finance will be given, in the form of which they are going to help. So these all things we are going to discuss here. The next third one is small business and the service enterprises. The next is the microcredit, educational loan, and the housing loan. These all things we are going to discuss in detail one by one. That first one is about agricultural and allied activities. So in the field of agricultural and allied activities, banks are giving the lending activities, or you can say the direct finance or indirect finance. Clear? So how they are providing the direct finance or direct financial help to the agricultural, and how they are providing indirect finance. So direct finance to agriculture shall include the short, medium, and long-term loans given for the agricultural and allied activity. Clear? So what the banks are doing after the nationalizations, banks are focusing more on the priority sectors. So in the priority sector, we are discussing first about the agricultural. So banks are providing the short-term loan, medium-term loan, and long-term loan to the activity which are related to the agricultural and other allied activity. To whom the banks are providing the credit? To, of course, the banks are providing the credit to the first one, individual farmer. The farmers, second is the self-help groups or the joint liability groups on the of the individual farmers, or without limit, or to others such as the corporate partnership firm or the institutions. As I have given you the example about the pesticides industries, if any partnership firm is there who is with the connection of agricultural and allied activity, but with the condition that the their capital must be up to 20 lakh rupees only for taking the agricultural and allied activity. If the capital is more than the 20 lakh, so they are not in the category that they are able to get the direct finance help. Second is the indirect financial help to the agricultural that shall include the loan given for the agricultural and allied activities as specified in the section number 1 appended. Here a separate section is there. Here if you want to read this section, so what you can do is you can just Google on the priority sectors and you can on the official website of these priority sectors. Here all the list and all the rules and regulation we are given that which types of finance will be available for which types of industries, what are the requirements should be fulfilled. All the rules and regulation is given in the section number 1 of that appended rules of the priority sectors. So indirect finance will be also given here like refinance refinance of the loan. Clear. You can see also the underwriting facility will be given. Also the banks are providing the technology. Clear. So these types of indirect help are also given. Sometimes the training program organized for the farmers. So this is in the list of the indirect finance to start these types of training for the farmers. If any banks or if any sector wants the financial help, the bank will provide this financial help to provide the training. Training here means the technological training to the farmers, so they can do the agricultural activities in a better way. So these all things are under the list of the direct finance and indirect finance. And banks nowadays, after the nationalization period, focusing more and more on the priority sectors. The second priority sector is the small scale industries. Again, the same, that direct finance will be also given and indirect finance will be also given to the small scale industries. Direct finance include the loans, of course, given to the SSI, means small scale industry units, which are engaged in the manufacturing, processing or preservation of goods. Clear. If you are the small scale industry and if you are engaged in the manufacturing process or the processing of the goods or the preservation of the goods, and whose investment in plant and machinery with the original cost excluding the land and building does not exceed the amount which is specified in the section number 1 appended, so you are in the list of the priority sector. Now at the time of pandemic situation, this criteria of the small scale industry is again redefined. Here what you can do, you can just Google it, that the limitations about the small scale. You are very much familiar with the micro scale, medium scale and small scale industries. Clear. There is a before some time, how you can say that the particular industry is a micro level, small level or the medium level according to the profit earned by the particular industries. Clear. So there are the criteria, or you can say that there are the limits of the profit. If the particular industry is earning this particular profit, so it is in the category of small, it is in the category of medium, or it is in the category of large. But after some time the definition is redefined. Nowadays the bifurcation of the industries between the small, medium and large scale industry is based on the investment in the assets. Clear. So same thing is written here, whose investment in plant and machinery. It does not include the land and building. So nowadays the bifurcation is done, which is based on the investment, which is not based on the profit. So nowadays this is so. In the latest situation, in the latest time, as you all know, that the financial help given by the some of the schemes of the government to the small scale industries, in that situation the limit is redefined. Clear. It is based on investment. The definition is not changed. Clear. It is based on investment, but the limit is changed. So if you want to see the limit, so you can find it on Google also. So these types of facility will be given in the form of direct finance or indirect finance. Indirect finance means here you can say the finance which for the startup of any new projects. Clear. Finance given for the refinance activity or the increase the time period of loan. This all are the in the category of indirect finance facility will be given to the small scale industries by the bank, or you can say the by the nationalized bank. The third one is about the small business and the service enterprises. Clear. It includes the small businesses, retail trade, professionals, self-employed persons, small road and the water transport operations, and other service enterprises. So, what I am doing, that I am giving you the practical example of nowadays, that you are very familiar that during the lockdown period, the small businessman person has to face the huge loss. Clear, the person who is doing the business on, you can say, on the platform or on the road, the person has to suffer the huge loss during this lockdown. So in that situation, the what the government has do, the government has provided the financial assistance to that person if they are doing business on road. Clear. So I think some 1,000 rupees per month, it is the compensation which was given by the government to that types of persons. So here the this plan of the government is possible with the help of the banks or the financial sectors. Clear. So this all thing is done according to the plan of the government. Nowadays nationalized bank, as we all know, that it is a public sector bank, so they are also contributing in the plan of the government. Now, what is the plan of the government? So the government plan is to focus on these types of person more. Why? Because then only the development of these types of person is possible. They are able to develop, and ultimately the country will be developed. So, because of this reason, the government has started some of the schemes, and banks are focusing, and banks are also contributing to fulfillment of the objective of government. Banks are also providing the finance to these types of person. Why? Because your risk level is high. Your risk of, you can say, the chances of NPA, non-performing asset, is high if the banks are providing the loan or the credit facility to these types of persons. But even though the banks are ready to provide the credit facility to these types of person, why? According to the plan of the government and according to the criteria that is given by the government, again in the same section number 1 of the appended list of the priority sector. So these types of facility were given by the banks in the form of direct finance or in the form of indirect finance for rendering of the services. Whose investment in the equipment, again the limit is there. Why? You can say that you are in the category of small business or you are the service enterprises. So again there is the limitations of the investment which is redefined nowadays. So these all limitation must be fulfilled. If limitations is fulfilled, then you are in the list of the these sectors. Then ultimately the banks are ready to help you at a cheaper rate, at a differential rate of interest, where you have to pay less interest, or some of the extra benefit will be given to you if the interest rate is same. Suppose like more time period will be given to the pay the amount or to pay the loan amount with interest. These types of some additional benefit will be given to the persons. We are not going to discuss this all in so much detail. Why? Because we have already discussed these points in detail. We have already discussed the criteria in the second year big form, if you remember. So in the that there I have given you the notes in that there is a limit about the investment of if the particular sector is in this category. So the banks are ready to provide the funds. So this all thing we have discussed in this third year become this question. We have to prepare just as a short note. The next point, that is the microcredit, provisions of the credit and other financial services, and the product of the very small amount does not exceed rupees 50,000 per borrower. Again, I am repeating, the limit is rupees 50,000 per borrower to the poor in the rural or the semi-urban areas or the urban areas, either directly or through a group of mechanism for enabling them to improve their lively standard will constitute the microcredit. So here the definition is given that what do you mean by microcredit? Microcredit means the help given to the person or the borrower of the rural areas or the semi-urban areas of the urban areas who wants to start, you can see, a business, who wants to start some productive purpose. Clear? They have taken a loan for any productive purpose, so they are able to improve their living standard. And for that, the limitation is that the amount which is asked by the person as a loan should not be exceeded to rupees 50,000 per borrower. Clear? If the any person wants the loan for more than not more than 50,000, then banks are ready to provide the loans to that type of person, so that the living standard of that person will increase. The next one is about the education loan. Of course, for educational purpose also the loans are provided by the banks. If individuals ask the loans to study in India, then the limit is rupees 10 lakh rupees. And if you want to study in abroad, then limit is 20 lakh rupees. And it do not include any grants given to the institutions. Clear, granted to only individuals for the educational purpose. These types of educational loan is not given to any types of institutions. Clear. You as an individual, if asked about the loan for the educational purpose, then banks are ready. Means this loan is given to the individual. This loan is not given to any institution. We have learned this topic also in our last year top chapter, that is the priority sectors. But just remember the limit that for India it is 10 lakh rupees, for abroad it is 20 lakh rupees. This is available for individual and this is not available for any foreign country. The third topic, that increase in number of bank branches, we are going to discuss in next lecture. What we did in today's lecture, we have started with the fresh topic, that is the achievements of the bank nationalizations. In that 11 points are there. Here achievements are bifurcated into the 11 sub points. Here in the today's lecture we have discussed with the first and second point, that is the expansion and the qualitative changes in bank advances. Expansion means here we have to discuss about the quantitative changes. Here quantitative changes which have take place in the bank advances or the total credit facility of the bank after the nationalization period, and the qualitative changes in the bank advances, that nowadays the bankers has adopted the scheme of the social banking. Clear, adopted the concept of the social banking. So that qualitative changes we have to discuss in short, and we have to give the details for the quantitative changes. Then the second topic is about the priority sectors. So that nowadays banks are focusing on the priority sectors, so the development of that weaker section will be possible, and ultimately the development of the particular country is possible. So in that we have discussed about these points. This first point is about the agriculture and allied activities. Second is the small scale industries. Next is small business. Then the microcredit. Then the educational loan. For the housing loan, uh, NHB was started here. One point is not explained here. That is, last one is the housing loan. For the housing loan, especially the National Housing Bank was started, and nowadays, if the person wants the loan facility for housing purpose, so these types of loan will also provided based on the sum of the security or based on the sum of the limits. So this is the end for today's lecture. From the next lecture, we are going to continue with the third point, that is the increase in number of banks. Till then, stay home, stay safe, start learning. We are going to meet in next lecture. Thank you. Have a good day.